Hello and welcome back to the Movie Pope podcast, everybody. And to all the film faithful, welcome to another great episode. And we have a great episode for you today. We have Mary Dossinger of the RiverRun International Film Festival based out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, here to talk about what they're doing up in Winston. Because as someone who lives in Charlotte, you really don't hear much from, our neighbors up north, but it's always good to, get to see what they're doing and kind of learn what the other half is up to in terms of filmmaking. But before we dive in, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know down in the comments what you think of the content. If you want us to do more interviews or do more reactions, let us know. And yes, I do know parts of my mustache are turning white. I have no control over it. I've tried to take it out, but it keeps growing, so we're stuck with it. But enough about me. Mary, how are you doing on this fine Saturday afternoon?
I'm doing great. It's a gorgeous day.
And I was gonna say, because the past week has been a bit exhausting, so we're all running on fumes for a little bit, and we're just trying to collect our thoughts here. So for a moment, I kept thinking to myself, I know I was supposed to do something. Like, what was it? And then I saw the email. I'm like, oh, really? Right.
That's right. Yeah, I feel
But Mary, I'm really excited to talk to you because this is one of those film festivals that that's really well known, but it's one of those things that I never knew about, the RiverRun International Film Festival. And what's even more interesting is the fact that you guys were operating right down the road from where I went to school over in Winston, because in little old Greensboro we were doing our own thing, and in this entire time you guys have been building up quite a formidable film scene. I mean, you've got the School of the Arts, you've got Salem College, you've got Winston-Salem State, you've got Wake Forest, obviously, and those guys have some pretty decent media studies programs. So I really want to learn what exactly is RiverRun, how you guys got started, and how did you guys fly under the radar? Because when I mentioned it to a few people, they were a bit confused until they looked it up, and they're like, oh, okay, I didn't know about that. So why don't you go ahead and start off and tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into RiverRun.
Yeah, sure. So I had my undergraduate degree at Emory University. I studied film for the first time. Didn't really think much of it, just thought it sounded like a fun class. And I loved it more than I ever thought I would. And so I ended up minoring in it. I majored in English. That seemed like a smarter idea, although I've done much with both of them now. But at the time, I just wasn't sure. And so I went into very different contexts. I worked at CNN. I worked a lobbying firm in DC. But then, in the back of my mind, I kept thinking about film. And actually, you talk about film festivals. That's what we're talking about today. I ended up going to a film festival in DC that doesn't exist anymore in the same context. It was called Silver Docs. It was a documentary film festival in Maryland, just over the DC border. And I just loved it. I loved everything about it. And it was like a whole new world had opened up to me. I didn't know these existed. It was very exciting. And so I started thinking more and more about it, and just decided to make a pretty big change. And I went and got my master's degree in film studies in London at King's College London. I didn't necessarily need to. I just thought it would be kind of a nice step back into the film world. It's very, very different than filmmaking. This is much more of an academic film background. A lot of researching and writing about film, but it was so much fun and a great excuse to live in London for a year. But it was really great. And I learned a lot from that experience. And I went into it thinking I was really interested in film festivals. So when I came back to the States, my parents live in Winston, which is sort of how I ended up here. Not really thinking I would stay here, of course, looking at the big ones like Sundance and all of that, and was trying to figure out how to get into that world. And then the next thing I knew, through friends of my parents, I met the former head of RiverRun. And now I'm about to go into my 18th festival. So it's a little crazy that just those little opportunities have put me in this position. And now I've been doing this for a long time, and I've seen it grow from, a small, basically long weekend festival to a 10-day festival. We're Academy qualifying in multiple subjects. Our submissions have grown like crazy. So it's been a wild ride, and I've gotten to see a whole lot of the history of it, which has been really fun for me. And, just with the history of RiverRun, if you want to know that, there's a little bit there. It was in Brevard, North Carolina, up in the mountains first. It was started by Gene D'Onofrio, Vincent D'Onofrio's father.
Oh.
Yeah, and he had the festival.
Private Pyle's dad.
And so it was up in Brevard, and Dale Pollock, who's the former dean of the UNCSA Film School, heard that they were looking to sell the rights to the festival and decided that Winston-Salem, and being the dean of UNCSA, it would be a fantastic location to have a film festival as an opportunity for the students, but also for the community. So it came here in about 2003, 2004. And now it's been here ever since. And we've been growing and are now in Greensboro as well. So
So when RiverRun first started, like how this might sound like a dumb question, but how small was it? Were you guys just getting like a few submissions here or there, or because you did mention that that before it started off, I think, as just a weekend event, and now it's grown to a 10-day event. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I mean, I wasn't here for the first few years in Winston, but yeah, I mean, I think like most festivals, it started out being, you're seeking out the films, right? You're writing to schools, you're writing to distribution organizations, things like that, trying to get them to know about you and send their films in. So there's a bigger ask out, right? When you first start, right? You're just making sure people know about you. Now having UNCSA behind them, that was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of professors at UNCSA could get the word out to the people they know in their film circles. So that was incredibly helpful. But yeah, I think it started as a 4-day event. So it was, a long weekend event with just a few films. And now we run over 10 days and generally have over 150 films. So, when I first started, I think it was a 6-day festival. And then we've increased and decreased and changed, just depending on schedules and things like that. But yeah, it's been fascinating to see the growth of it.
Now, the thing that that always strikes me is that whenever a film festival has international in the title,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously it's going to mean you guys are going to focus on international films, submissions that come from other countries, like in Europe or South America or Africa or Asia, but but also being situated in Winston-Salem and having ties to, an institution like UNCSA. I mean, presumably you also want to cater to the local filmmaking talent. Is there is there a delicate balance in terms of how many international films you want to represent, as well as how much of the local talent in the Triad area that you want to give voice to? Is that like a struggle, or have you found a way to kind of make it work?
I don't think it's a struggle. I think one of the things I like best about RiverRun, and as a programmer, is that we show a little bit of everything, and that's awesome, right? They're not taking away anything from genre festivals at all, but I love that we can show, 10 different people could find something that they love at our festival. And I love that about it. We have a section of North Carolina feature films. We have a section of North Carolina short films. We offer free submission to any North Carolina student films. So yes, we care a lot about that and highlight that every single year at the festival. And then we also incorporate international films all throughout other areas of our festival. So, I don't think it's really a struggle. The biggest struggle is there's always films we love that we can't show.
Yeah, exactly.
That's always going to be the case. It's not, if only I could show all of these other films. Like, that's never going to be the case in any of the categories. So part of it is just really making sure we have the widest representation of films all across the board in all of our different categories and things like that. So, and that's fun as a programmer to do because you're watching a lot of everything.
Yeah. And from my previous interviews with film festival organizers, that's like probably the most arduous task right there is sifting through the submissions and trying to figure out which ones really speak to us and which ones we kind of have to put in the rejection pile, which is never a good feeling. But at the same time, it's like you only have so many days and so many hours at a certain venue. You want to be able to make every shot count, to use a use a common expression. So another thing I want to ask you is that when it comes to showing these films, are you I mean do you kind of operate under under the I guess under like a theme, like per festival or a theme per day, or how does that work out in terms of showing films from both local and international levels?
We really don't have much at all thematic programming. We have sections that we're looking for films for. So we have, our special presentations, which are generally more films from distributors or films with names attached to them, the more higher profile ones that people will have heard of, right? And then we have our narrative feature competition section, our documentary feature competition section, other feature sections that aren't necessarily juried, but we have, again, within that, we have a little bit of everything, things from first-time filmmakers, things from filmmakers you would know. Again, no themes. The only real themes that we have at all are we have a Saturday morning cartoons program, which is really just animation that's meant for kids, but it's still incredible animation. But I guess it's themed in that we just need it to be appropriate for younger kids. And then in our late night shorts program, it's just kind of the kookier, crazy stuff that our late night audiences seem to really enjoy. But again, it's animation, sometimes documentaries, sometimes narrative, and that's really fun for us to be able to do. We are not beholden to any specific theme or genre or anything like that, which is really fun actually as a programmer, but also difficult as a programmer.
It's kind of liberating in a way because then you're not having to kind of box yourself when it comes to going through these film submissions. So in terms of film submissions, what exactly do you look for whenever you're getting submissions from filmmakers from all over the place? Like, are there certain guidelines or certain things that that you or any other screener kind of looks for when deciding what's going to go into the schedule for an upcoming festival run?
I think that is easily the hardest question I'm ever asked in all of these years of doing this, because there's not just one answer.
Yeah.
There are so many factors that go into deciding. It's not just whether something is good or bad, and also that's subjective. So something I might think is good or bad, one of our other programmers might love. And we definitely have that happen a lot. And so that's why we've somewhat split up sections so that we can have a little bit more of that, autonomy, I guess, because we don't all agree. Nobody does. And that would never happen. So that's why we have different sections of the festival that we can look for kinds of different types of films, I guess. But again, every single year I go into it, I like to think with an incredibly open mind as to whatever submissions happen to come in. So the only technical things, obviously, there are certain run times that we go by for shorts versus features, because those are Academy rules and that's what we follow. But other than that, there's not really major technical things that would just disqualify a film before we watch it, and then go down that whole list of things as to will this work for RiverRun? And that's the main question, right? Every festival is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Different people are watching them. They have different audiences. They're in different places, and you're just looking for different things. So I honestly can't say that there's one or two things that we're looking for in a film, right? I mean,
Yeah.
until I see it and until I see all of the technical aspects, the story, the subject matter, all of that, I don't really know if it will work for us. And then even when you choose all the ones you like, then like what we were saying is there's not enough room for all of them. And so then you start going into a whole nother matrix of decisions that you're trying to make as to, you can't have 3 films with the same subject matter. You can't have this, so it's a big puzzle, and it's fun to do, but also very difficult because
Yeah.
and not everything can eventually make the cut.
So I do want to ask you about the relationship that you guys have in Winston-Salem with other institutions, because Winston-Salem is a college town. I think you guys have what, like 5 colleges and universities, just within the city alone, and not to mention you guys are part of you got as you mentioned earlier, you do have a connection with schools in Greensboro, obviously
Mhm.
the biggest one being UNC Greensboro.
Mhm.
So can you talk about the relationship that you guys have in terms of not only helping run the festival, but also kind of encouraging local talent to kind of submit their films to your to your festivals for viewing.
Right. Well, like I said, one of the things we've had the entirety of the time I've been at RiverRun is we allow for free submission for any North Carolina student. So that's sometimes even high school students, sometimes even junior high students. We've
Oh
gotten
wow.
those before too. So the idea is to send them in, right? It's not costing you anything. Send them in, and who knows, maybe something will work, And we have done a lot of that, and we have a Films with Class program where we also show films to local area elementary, junior high, and high school area students to get them already involved in the grand world of filmmaking, and getting them involved and letting them know about RiverRun and opportunities we have. But yeah, we work really closely, particularly with UNCSA and the Wake Forest documentary film program, both with students to be a part of RiverRun, or also either as filmmakers or interns or jurors, various things like that, film screeners, all of that. And then, but yeah, I mean, we're always working with all of the different local universities, and we do a lot of year-round programming too. And I had mentioned this to you earlier, but we've been working more closely with UNCG on a lot of that, even different, not the filmmaking programs. It's a lot of these universities as well. It doesn't always have to be about film. If a certain documentary we're showing works with different parts of university programs, we'll work with them in that way too. The whole idea is to envelop the community, and that includes all of the students we have here, as much as possible within the world of RiverRun. So yeah.
So what about RiverRun's overall relationship with the city of Winston-Salem? Like, what does what does RiverRun bring to Winston, and what does Winston do to help RiverRun?
Yeah, I mean, we work very closely with our city government, of course, and work with both getting grants from the city, financial help from the city, but also a lot of these various events work to bring people into the city as well. So the idea is that we're bringing in usually 100 plus filmmakers every year to the city. And we've started getting a lot more people coming from outside of the city and staying overnight on the weekends, and, to generate tourism to the area. So we work with our local Chamber of Commerce. We work with our tourism bureau here as well. So there's so many different aspects of how we work within the city, and they're all vitally important, right? So we exist for our community. That is what both for the filmmakers and then also for the community aspect, are the 2 most important aspects of a film festival, in my opinion.
Now do you also have a relationship with the Triad Film Commission, because they're based out of Winston?
They are. I mean, personally, yes, I've known the head of it for the entire time I've been at RiverRun, so I work very closely with them. They're fantastic, and we're always trying to work. We actually just did a panel with them last year, and showed one of the short films that was nominated for an Academy Award. It was the 15th anniversary or 20th anniversary, I think, of the film. And so we had a panel with the head of the Piedmont Triad Film Commission talking about how the film was shot here. And we've done numerous panels over the year talking about the importance of local filmmaking and bringing filmmaking talent here to Winston-Salem.
Well, that's another question I want to ask you as
Mhm.
well, is given the scale and the notoriety that RiverRun has in in that part of North Carolina, have you seen anything in terms of how it's affected the film industry in Winston and the Triad? Anything that you've heard from talking to either the people at the commission, or from just talking to individual filmmakers, or people who work in film in general, like crew or cast or whatever?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know that I can say we have massive filmmaking talent brought here just because they've come to RiverRun, but I do know a number of filmmakers who have met at RiverRun and then decided to work together on future projects, littler things to that level, or while they're here, have gone and looked around for potential site locations for potential of their films. But I can't say that it's, some huge, like George Clooney or something has. But I do love hearing those stories. And I think a lot of times what I hear, and I'm also on the board of another smaller film festival here in Winston, what I find really fascinating is people, say from Los Angeles or things like that, have never heard of this area. They don't know what they're coming to, right? And they're so pleasantly surprised that they want to spend more time here, and they want to come back, and they want to see what, learn more about the area, which even just that little bit is so exciting and so great, because it shows that we're doing something well here, and that people really enjoy their time here and want to come back in different ways, whether it's just with another film they've made and they want to come back to the area, to one of the many incredible festivals in North Carolina, or they say, hey, there's even more to this here, and I really want to start looking more into stories here, whether they're documentary filmmakers or narrative filmmakers looking for locations and places to be. So the idea is that we have the Piedmont Triad Film Commission, or we've had the North Carolina Film Commissioner come to RiverRun, just to talk about the things that are going on here and educating as many filmmakers as we can about the opportunities that are within the state and within the region for filmmakers. So any way we can possibly do that, we try and help do that.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, because Winston is such a picturesque city. I mean, because I've only been there a few times, but the times I've been there, it's just so it's almost got this like Mayberry vibe to it. I mean, it looks like it hasn't changed that much when you look at a city like Charlotte or Raleigh, where the way it looks now was not the way that it looked 10 years ago or even 5 years ago.
Right.
So I can definitely see how film productions would definitely want to take a look at Winston or the Triad area and just say, maybe it's worth taking a look and seeing if maybe we want to shoot something here.
Right.
If not the whole film, then a good part of it.
Right.
But I do want to shift gears a little bit, because in terms of running a festival, I can't imagine it's ever easy. Even with going through all the film submissions and trying to find which one is going to be best suited for for screening. But can you talk a little bit about what you do at RiverRun, and how much work goes into making sure that you have a good run every year?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Oh gosh, that's a bigger question than I don't think you
Yeah.
have the whole answer to. But yeah, I think a lot of times people have no idea. They are shocked that this is a year-round job. How could that possibly be?
Yeah,
I
exactly,
think they think
exactly.
like a month or two before we just kind of put it all together, which is not at all how this works. But as I'm the program director, so I have done that now for, like I said, 17 years. And so yeah, basically we have a little bit of time off in the summer where we, talk about what worked, what didn't work, things like that. But we start getting film submissions in September. And we are already up to almost 1,500 submissions, and we still have about a little over a month left for people to submit. So it's huge as always. And so we're working on all of that right now. And then we'll start making decisions in January and February. But then simultaneously, we're also trying to plan for all of our various events of the festival. We're raising money because, like any small arts nonprofit, it's all about raising the correct budget every year to be able to do what we want to do.
Mhm.
That's probably one of the hardest parts about running a film festival, running any arts nonprofit. You can't do it with no money. So you have to figure that out and hope that the community will step up and donate and corporations will sponsor and do all of that. So all of this is being done within the fall. And then in January, we kind of go full force with choosing the films, getting all the venues set, getting all of our seasonal staff set. And that all goes up until we announce in March, and then tickets go on sale, and then we have the festival. So, I mean, there's so many more little things that go on within that, but it is definitely a year-round operation. And again, we've been doing a lot more year-round screening, which is something I've really enjoyed, because the idea is that we don't exist just 10 days of the year. We exist all throughout the year, and we want to bring as many interesting films and subjects and community opportunities to the area. So we do a lot of free screenings. We do family screenings. We'll be doing 2 screenings in December to raise, to collect cans and goods for, a nonprofit organization here in the area. So I really love being able to do that, and that it's not just about those 10 days, and that we can highlight films all throughout the year, which is really important as well.
Now, you did mention the festival normally runs for 10 days. Is that is that the standard for what you guys do, or will there come a point where you decide maybe it would be easier if we kind of pared it down to maybe 6 days or 8 days, or maybe maybe if there are like a lot of submissions that you like, have you ever considered maybe expanding it even further to 12 days or even 14 days?
We have all the time talked about those things. And actually this year it's going to be 9 days. Because the problem with even the more films and more places, I think you still reach a saturation point for audiences. There are festivals that go for weeks, which I don't fully understand. That's a whole lot to do, but I think that if you're really going to do a festival, it's good to keep it as contained as possible, because also for your guests that come in town, so that they can experience as much of it as possible, right? You want to keep it as festive of an atmosphere as possible. So this year it's actually going to be 9 days. It's starting on a Friday evening and ending on a Saturday evening. So just a little over a week this time. So yeah, I mean, but we talk about this every year, what should we do? What could we look at doing? And mostly it usually comes down to budgeting things and what makes the most sense. So it's been hard. I mean, it seems like a long time ago that COVID happened, but a lot of arts organizations are still trying to figure out, coming out of COVID.
Yeah, and that's another thing I was going to ask you too. So I mean, so when COVID happened, did you guys shut down completely, or did you kind of switch to streaming?
We didn't have enough time to switch to streaming right away. We literally canceled 2 weeks before the festival.
Okay.
So that was rough. Everything had been done. Tickets were on sale. We were on we were on a path to have the best ticket sales we'd ever had. And then we had to shut down 2 weeks before the festival happened. So, or was set to happen. So we didn't have enough time in 2020 to be able to do that. We did eventually show a lot of things streaming like throughout the fall as much as we could to highlight those films. It was just a rough time. And then in 2021, we had an all outdoor screenings, in-person screenings or online. And then 2022 is when we came back fully.
So the festival usually runs around the springtime, so April, right? What can you talk about what you guys have planned for next year's run, or is it kind of a big secret right now?
I mean, I couldn't even begin to tell you what films we're going to show. Still working on that part. Like I said, submissions are still open, so I don't really start choosing anything until submissions close and we have gone through every single film. So, but yeah, it'll be like I said, gosh, I should have had the dates memorized, but I think it's April 11th. I'll double check for you to get the full dates. I really should have them memorized. This is how my brain works, though.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Because this year was
April
the
11th
24th.
through the 19th. Yeah, April
11th through the
11th through
19th.
the 19th. So I can tell you that much. And we'll have a lot of the same sections that we've had. But again, we never totally know what films are gonna be here, what events we'll have, but it'll be. I think it's based on what I've seen so far. It's gonna be, as usual, a very hard year to choose, and there's a lot of exciting things going on, and I want to partner with as many groups as we can. And we're gonna actually be in Greensboro for 5 nights of the festival this year.
Oh, okay.
So 5 nights will be at Red Cinemas, so that's exciting. Expanding that a little bit more, trying to bring in the whole Triad region. Yeah.
So that's really fascinating because because when you guys started off, RiverRun was mainly confined to the Winston-Salem area, and now you guys have expanded into Greensboro.
Mm-hmm.
Have you made any inroads into High Point yet, or is that TBD?
I mean, we don't have a specific screening venue in High Point. The idea of being at Red Cinemas, who's been a great partner and wanted us to be there, and has been so wonderful to have, makes it so that we have, and then High Point can have Winston or Greensboro to go to, and depending on people's schedules and things like that, it's nice to have. I mean, it's just really hard for us to be in too many venues. Again, I just think that then you're asking people to choose even more between the different films. So it's always a bit of a puzzle, a bit of a game to make sure you have enough for people, but also aren't oversaturating.
Right, you're not overextending yourself
Yes,
in the
exactly.
process. but that's what I just find so fascinating because because with my previous interviews, most of these film festivals are usually confined to one space.
Yep.
What I find so unique and interesting about you guys is the fact that you guys are not just confined to Winston-Salem, even though that's where you guys are mainly based. You guys are also reaching out to Greensboro to kind of share the love as well, and kind of provide the exposure for for filmmaking talent over there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you is this something that's brand new, or is it something that's kind of been ongoing for quite a while? Because when I went to school at Greensboro, I never heard anything about RiverRun. This is something I only found out years and years after I graduated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's always a process, right? You're constantly trying to bring in other groups so that you expand the reach of people who know about RiverRun and want to be a part of it. I mean, I've been even working a bit with some people in Charlotte. I don't know what we'll be able to do because Charlotte has an amazing film festival and I know all of them. So, but just trying to, we're all at different times too. So the idea is to just make it as welcoming and open as possible and trying to bring in as many people as we can. I just believe in that. I don't think of anything as being anything we need to worry about, or, I mean, I just love, coordinating with as many other festivals as we can, as groups as we can. I mean, we've worked closely with Full Frame over the years. I've worked with Cucaloris over the years. There's so many great things happening here, and I just want to promote that as much as possible. So part of it was, Red Cinemas had a connection to one of our colleagues, and it was a really great opportunity to be more of a Piedmont Triad festival as much as just a Winston-Salem based festival. So it's great. And, we've been growing our audiences slowly in Greensboro, but there's definitely some people who just come to those screenings. And so we try and show a wide variety of our program there so that it's not just one section or one kind of film. We show a little bit of things from different different sections of the festival to give a good overview of the kinds of things we're showing every year. So it's been great.
It's really, really exciting too, considering the fact that you guys are trying to provide a voice for the Triad area, not just one city, but like an entire that part of North Carolina that I guess most people never think of. So I really do salute you for that. But we are getting close to the end here. But if people want to learn more about yourself or RiverRun, where can they go?
So our website is just riverrunfilm.com. So RiverRunfilm.com. We always have any of our year-round screenings that are coming up listed on there, our dates. You can learn information about submitting, volunteering, just being a part of it, and also donating if anybody wants to. All of that information's on our website. So yeah, that's the best way to find out about it. And if you have any follow-up questions or anyone does, I'd be happy to answer those.
Excellent. So Mary, before we sign off, this is a question I like to ask all of my guests.
I know this is the hardest question on the list you sent me, I think.
I like to get it out to people a lot earlier so they have some time to think. But is there like a movie or TV show that you've seen recently that you really, really love and you want to give a shout out to?
Ooh, recently, huh? That changes it. You asked my favorite.
Well, I'll modify it a little bit. Like me, for example, I rewatched The Dirty Dozen a few nights ago. So if you were to ask me that question, I would say The Dirty Dozen. So it doesn't necessarily need to be Dune Part 2 or anything like that. I mean,
that's such a hard thing for me to do, and I'm not trying to pass off the question, but just given, I find it so hard to compare when I'm watching, really hard-hitting documentaries, but then really great sitcoms, right? Like, it's so hard. I feel like my head is constantly going in a million directions.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We actually just re-screened North by Northwest the other day, which is really fun. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it was so cool. It was a brand new print that they just made a new DCP restoration of that they had screened at the TCM festival, that we were able to get that DCP and screen it at Marketplace Theaters on a huge screen, which was pretty amazing, actually. It's so fun to be able to do kind of stuff that you just don't get to do all the time. And our executive director is an incredible film historian and knows a lot about it. So he gave a great intro before that. And I, as long as I've been doing this, I still love stuff like that, right? Things that you saw years ago, like you were saying, or I watched for a class, or, it's just in such a different context, and being able to just sit in a theater with a bunch of other people and see a film like that is pretty magical, pretty awesome.
Well, I was going to say, because it also has a bit of a time machine effect, because when you're in the theater watching it, you kind of get the feeling of, man, I bet this is what it was like back in 1957 when the movie first premiered. No, mind you, we're not wearing fedoras and suits or anything like that, but you can still get that vibe, that excitement of watching Cary Grant being chased around by a plane, like
on Mount Rushmore, and
like they did back in the day. Mary, it was such a pleasure chatting with
Oh,
you.
thanks.
I really can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to come on the podcast. And I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch this episode. If you're enjoying the content that we're doing, remember to leave a like, comment if you want to, even subscribe, join the Film Faithful. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.